Ethan zipped up his jacket, adjusting the collar as he caught his reflection in the mirror. His jersey, crisp and spotless, hugged his shoulders, a reminder of the weight he carried. Star quarterback, local hero, the face of Nixa High School's football team. He thrived under the gaze of hundreds of fans who packed the bleachers each week. They chanted his name, wore his number, and rode the highs and lows of every game as if their lives depended on it. It was his world, and it was perfect. Yet, a sense of discomfort crept in as he thought of the ride to the game. Luna, his sister. It wasn't that he didn't love her, he did, but she made things complicated. Her fascination with the occult and witchcraft wasn't just a quirky hobby. It was becoming the talk of the school. People whispered about her behind her back, calling her the creepy sister of the school's most popular guy. He heard the comments, caught the glances, but never acknowledged them. Instead, he just avoided the topic. Better that way, he told himself. Ethan grabbed his keys off the dresser, the clink of metal against wood breaking the silence in his room. He glanced down at his phone, checking for any last-minute messages from the team or his coach. Nothing. He sighed, knowing that the most awkward part of his night was about to begin, the drive with Luna. As he headed out the door, his mom's voice echoed from the kitchen, reminding him, as always, to make sure Luna got to the game safely. It wasn't a request. He was responsible for her, even if she wasn't someone he chose to hang around with at school. "Luna, come on," he called out impatiently from the front door. His voice had the practiced tone of someone used to being in command, to getting what he wanted. His friends listened to him. His teammates respected him. But Luna was a different story. From upstairs, he heard a shuffle of movement before his sister appeared, descending the stairs slowly, her arms wrapped around a book, no doubt one of her witchcraft things, judging by its leather-bound cover and strange symbols. That was all he needed to see to feel his frustration build. He shook his head. "Ready?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. She didn't wait for an answer and slid past him to the car, her long dark hair bouncing slightly as she moved. Ethan didn't respond, instead following her out the door, ignoring the knot tightening in his stomach. The ride to the school was filled with silence, save for the hum of the engine and the occasional sound of his fingers tapping rhythmically on the steering wheel. Ethan's thoughts drifted to the game ahead. He could feel the energy building already. The roaring crowd, the floodlights, the thrill of another win on the horizon. He visualized the passes he'd make, the plays he would call, his teammates rallying around him as they pushed toward victory. Luna, in the passenger seat, was flipping through her book. Ethan glanced at her out of the corner of his eye. She didn't say much during these drives, and that was fine with him. He didn't have the energy for another conversation about spells or whatever it was she was into these days. It was too weird. And more importantly, it was bad for his image. He liked his life neat, with no loose ends. He was Ethan, the quarterback, the golden boy. He couldn't be associated with anything strange or controversial, and Luna's obsession with that stuff was both. "You could try acting normal for once," he muttered under his breath, the words escaping before he could stop himself. Luna's gaze snapped to him, her expression hardening slightly. "Normal? What's that supposed to mean?" Ethan sighed, immediately regretting the jab. He didn't want to fight right now, not before the game. "I'm just saying. People talk. You don't make it easy for yourself." "I don't really care what people say," Luna replied, her voice steady but cold. "Not everything revolves around high school football and popularity contests, you know." That stung, but Ethan wasn't about to let it show. "Yeah, well, some things do. You wouldn't get it." They lapsed back into silence, the tension in the car thickening. Ethan stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched as they pulled into the parking lot at the school. As they approached the entrance, he could already see the gathering crowd, the sea of blue and white jerseys, the familiar faces of his teammates and friends. This was his world. It was predictable. It was safe. But Luna? She was a wild card. A loose thread he couldn't quite figure out how to tuck away. He didn't need to understand her obsession with witchcraft. He just needed to make sure it didn't ruin things for him. "I'll see you after the game," Ethan said quickly, killing the engine and grabbing his duffel bag. He didn't wait for a response as he stepped out of the car, slinging the bag over his shoulder and heading toward the field, the sound of the crowd growing louder with every step. Luna, still seated in the car, watched him for a moment before getting out herself, her fingers tracing the edges of the book she had carried with her. She had a plan for tonight, a plan Ethan couldn't know about. Not yet. As Ethan walked toward the field, he glanced back over his shoulder at Luna, who was already drifting toward the bleachers. He shook his head slightly, pushing thoughts of his sister and her strange world out of his mind. He had a game to win. Everything else could wait. Trinity sat in the stands, her fingers gliding over her phone screen, scrolling through page after page of witchcraft-related websites. Most of what she found was the same old folk tales she'd seen before. Nothing useful, but it kept her mind busy while she waited for Luna. Still, she clicked on one article, skimming through as she half-listened to the murmur of the crowd around her. "Hey, Earth to Trinity." Luna's voice snapped her out of the rabbit hole she was disappearing into. Trinity jumped slightly, startled. Luna, grinning with a quiet mischievousness, plopped down beside her. "You scared me." Trinity laughed, clutching her phone. Luna shrugged, her smile subdued. "You are totally absorbed in your little witch hunt there." Trinity chuckled and tucked her phone into her pocket. "Just killing time. You're late." Luna made a face, brushing her dark hair over one shoulder. "Had to get some things together." The buzz of the crowd grew louder as the band set up nearby. Trinity glanced around the field, taking in the bustle. The cheerleaders were hauling their table into place, the team was getting ready, and the fans were already in full school spirit mode. "You really don't care about any of this, do you?" Trinity asked, watching as Luna's eyes drifted over the scene with barely a flicker of interest. Luna shook her head, leaning back in her seat. "Not really. I'm just here for the after-hours part of the night," she said with a quiet smirk. "And because Ethan's my ride." Her tone carried no pride, just the practicality of the arrangement. She barely glanced at the field as the players began to run out to cheers. Trinity nodded, feeling a bit of the same disconnection, but for a different reason. "Ethan's looking good tonight, though, don't you think?" she asked, nodding toward the field where Luna's brother, the star quarterback, was soaking in the cheers. Luna barely glanced. "I guess," she said with a shrug. Trinity smiled. Ethan was cute, no doubt about it, but she was here for a bigger mystery than teenage crushes or football. The game kicked off with the typical fanfare, cheers, drums, and the marching band blasting the school fight song every few minutes. As the excitement on the field built, Trinity leaned toward Luna and pulled out her phone again. "I found something interesting online," she said. Luna arched an eyebrow. "More folklore?" "Kind of," Trinity replied, unlocking her phone. She found the page she'd saved earlier and handed it to Luna. "It's all old-school ritual stuff. Look at this." Luna scanned the screen, her expression remaining neutral but intrigued. Trinity explained, "It says if we're going to do this ritual right, we need candles arranged in a certain shape." Luna continued to read, her lips barely moving as she took in the details. When she was done, she handed the phone back to Trinity. "Candles, huh?" she said quietly, with a knowing look. Trinity nodded, feeling a bit deflated. "Yeah, but we need candles." Luna grinned, a flicker of mischief lighting up her otherwise calm demeanor. She slowly unzipped her backpack and tilted it toward Trinity. Inside, nestled among her things, was a collection of candles. Trinity stared, wide-eyed, then burst into laughter. "Of course you knew about the candles. You're the crazy witch girl." Luna joined in, her laugh soft but genuine. "Guilty." Their laughter was interrupted by the crowd's sudden roar. Trinity glanced up just in time to see Ethan throw a perfect pass down the field. The ball sailed through the air, landing square in the hands of a receiver who sprinted toward the end zone. The band kicked into the fight song as the bleachers erupted in applause. Trinity watched Ethan for a moment, admiring the way he commanded the field. "He's pretty good," she admitted, her tone casual. Luna shrugged again, her attention already back on the task ahead. "He's had enough practice." Trinity smirked, glancing at the time. "Halftime's coming up soon. That'll be our chance." Luna nodded, her mind clearly not on the game. "We'll sneak out when everyone's distracted." She glanced down at her backpack again. Got everything we need. Trinity felt her heart pick up speed, nerves mixing with excitement. She pulled her phone out one last time, glancing over the details of the ritual. This might just be another piece of folklore, she said, her voice low. Yeah, Luna agreed. But even if it doesn't work, it's like we're paying homage, right? Trinity smiled faintly, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Right. Another wave of cheers erupted as the team ran off the field for halftime. Ethan, the star of the first half, jogged toward the locker room, his teammates slapping him on the back as they passed. Luna glanced at Trinity. Ready? Trinity took a deep breath, giving a small nod. Let's do this. They stood together, the noise of the game fading behind them as they made their way toward the exit. Neither of them knew what they would find in the depths of the school, but whatever it was, they were ready. The band's music thundered across the football field, and the noise of the halftime show echoed in the distance as Ethan made his way out of the locker room, heading toward the field. His helmet swung loosely in his hand, the cool evening air brushing against his face. He was ready to get back into the game, to shake off the tension from the first half and focus on the final plays. Just as he neared the exit, something caught his eye. Across the way, barely visible in the dim light outside the locker rooms, two figures darted toward the side door. He squinted, recognizing the familiar quick movements of Luna, and, yeah, that had to be Trinity with her. They were moving like they didn't want to be seen, slipping inside the locker room door as if they were breaking into a secret vault. Ethan stopped mid-step, watching them for a moment. What the hell are they doing? He muttered to himself. He knew Luna had always been into weird stuff, her obsession with the occult more than just a passing phase. But sneaking into the locker room during halftime? That was new, even for her. He shook his head, watching the door click shut behind them. It had to be something to do with that obsession of hers. It always was. Ethan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck in frustration. He didn't have time to figure out whatever mystery his sister was chasing now. He had a game to finish. Still, it bugged him. What could be so important that she'd sneak around like that? And why was Trinity always getting dragged along? With one last glance at the now closed door, he turned back toward the field, shaking his head.